Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Zach Miller. I'm Vice President of Programming with the Social Innovation Summit, and so grateful that you're here with us today. For those of you who may be new to our community, the Social Innovation Summit is a platform designed to elevate groundbreaking ideas and innovative trailblazers who are changing the world for the better. Throughout the year, we're honored to partner with leading organizations to amplify important conversations and explore practical solutions to some of the biggest challenges and opportunities facing our society. Today's webinar, a practical exploration of how to leverage AI for good, hosted in partnership with our friends at AWS, is a perfect example of that. Artificial intelligence has quickly become one of the most important topics across every sector, and certainly in the SIS community. For nonprofit and impact leaders, the questions are often less about the technology itself and more about the practical application. How can AI help us become more effective? How do we use it responsibly? How can we take advantage of the tools even with limited budgets and technical resources? So today's webinar is designed to answer those questions. You'll hear practical examples of how nonprofits are leveraging AI to better advance their missions. And in particular, we'll explore how organizations like yours can begin that journey through the AWS Nonprofit Credit Program, which is helping make these capabilities more accessible than ever through grants. Before we dive in today, I'd encourage everyone to make our session as interactive as possible. So please use the Zoom Q&A feature throughout the webinar to submit your questions and feedback and thoughts as they come to mind. So please use that in the Zoom Q&A function. And our presenter will do her best to answer those either throughout the presentation as we go or towards the end. And so with that, it's now my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Fiona McCann. Fiona is a solutions architect at Amazon Web Services, where she partners with nonprofits and mission-driven organizations to help them leverage cloud technologies, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to advance their impact. As a trusted technical advisor, she helps charities design secure, scalable, and mission-aligned technology solutions, with a particular focus on helping organizations adopt AI responsibly and effectively. We're thrilled to have Fiona with us today, and we're grateful to AWS for partnering with us throughout the year and especially on this important conversation. Fiona, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Zach, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here with you all and hopefully chatting with you interactively throughout today's session. Like Zach said, we have the Q&A open, and I would absolutely love if we can make this an interactive session. I see that there's about 62 people that are here. That means that I will hopefully be getting 62 plus questions as we go through, because I would love for this to be catered towards what you're all interested in and wanting to learn about. As we go through this session today, we're going to be talking about technology with purpose, specifically using AI for the modern nonprofit. I do have a couple different demos that I have, kind of ready to go and show you all. But again, I would love for this to be fit to whatever you're specifically interested in. And I'm happy to move things around and be flexible with different types of demos if there's something else that interests you more than what I have planned. But we'll go ahead and get started with a presentation. So I will share my screen and get us started. So technology with purpose, AI for the modern nonprofit. Like Zach said, I'm a solutions architect at AWS. What that means is that I work with nonprofit organizations. I'm a free resource to nonprofit organizations as a technological advisor. I'm just here to, explain what AWS services do, how customers can use them, how they can architect environments to be, following best practices, basically how to use tech to move a mission forward. And that's what I do every day. So there are some general challenges that we see amongst many of our customers. And some of these challenges that we hear about every single day that come up often are on the screen here. So one of them that I hear often is, we don't have the engineering bandwidth to do everything that we would like to do. People are saying things like our IT is stretched thin. We already have tools that they're working now to manage. The idea of moving forward and adopting new tools is overwhelming because it feels like we don't have the capacity. So that's one big challenge I hear. Another is scalability and cost. People saying that, our website has traffic spikes that are coming in during a specific campaign or potentially a specific type of year if you're a holiday-based organization. We're really overpaying for our hosting so that it can fit that period of large spikes, and then the rest of the year, it's not being utilized properly. That's one another challenge that I help my customers with. Another is operational overhead, having to do with the fact that, programs and operations might be buried in manual data processing instead of focused on the actual delivery of a program. There can be a lot of operational overhead as things grow in the old ways. And so helping customers to let go of those processes that have historically or traditionally been part of their everyday tasks and figuring out ways to do more with less operational overhead. And then the last one is data and reporting. This is a very common one that I hear with my nonprofits. This concept of, we have data, but our data is all over the place. We have some here, we have some in spreadsheets, we have some written in a, handwritten sign-in sheet on our front desk, and we have others in the database that, we don't really access quite very often. So, surfacing those real-time insights for our board and our funders ends up being this massive job that is largely comprised of just finding that data and trying our best to bring it together. That's a big challenge that I hear with my customers. And so these are four that I'll be addressing throughout the presentation today and hopefully demonstrating ways that we can help solve. Again, if there's a challenge that isn't mentioned here that you would like to hear how AWS might be able to help you with, please, I encourage you to pop that in the Q&A chat, and we can see if we can do any brainstorming today on the call to see if AWS can help in any way. So you might not be very familiar with AWS though, and as a nonprofit, professional, potentially you're working already with technology and with AWS, but maybe you're not. For some background on what AWS does with nonprofits, I have this slide here. We work with over 95,000 nonprofits. Over 95,000 nonprofit organizations worldwide are currently using AWS every single day. So the topic of AWS, though, might be confusing in itself. So you might be asking, what exactly is AWS? AWS is a cloud provider that has over 240 services. Those services range all different types of areas of technology. So it might be a storage service, the type of thing where, if you're currently keeping a document and it's sitting on your desk, but you want other people to be able to access it as well. We have storage services where you can host your items and keep them on the cloud. We have other services like databases that might have a more complex and structured way of maintaining your data. Maybe that data has to have specific, time-based measurements or keep track of a user over time. That might be a better fit for a database. We have compute services, which is basically like the actual server, that computer server that things are running on. Instead of having to have a server underneath your desk like you used to in the past, now you can connect to our servers that are sitting in data centers across the world. And that allows you more flexibility in the way that you're running things on those computers. That's just a sprinkle of an introduction into what our services are. Like I said, there's over 240. And because that can seem a little bit overwhelming, we have solution architects like myself that are here to help explain all of them, what they do, how you can use them, and how to use them in a way that aligns with our best practices. The next box there is that $41.5 million box, and that is our annual distribution to nonprofit, or our distribution to nonprofits globally. So that's $20 or $20 million in credits and $21 million in unrestricted funding. So that funding goes out to our nonprofits. It helps nonprofit customers to, build further their missions, and stay up to date in technology, because sometimes the barrier to keeping up is just that little bit of funding to get things moving. And along the lines of our investment in nonprofits, we have a variety of programs that are built specifically for our nonprofit customers. One of them is the Imagine Grant. The Imagine Grant is a grant program that we do annually where nonprofit organizations can apply and describe a specific project or a specific idea that they have, a way that their mission could move forward if they just had the funding to make something happen. So the awards are up to $200,000 in cash and $100,000 in credits. There are 3 categories for this grant program. I would highly encourage you to look into the grant program. Well, I think we can go ahead and put a link in the chat for this program. And the application for this year has already passed, but now is really the time to start thinking ahead for next year, kind of understanding where your technology stack is right now and what might be a good fit for you in the future, so that by the time next year's application rolls around, you have your head in the right place to think, okay, what could we build? How could we build it? And now let's set up an application. But the Imagine Conference, that next box, is actually a really great resource and a great way to help you with that thinking. So this is a peer-to-peer gathering and learning exercise that we put on every year. It's a tech conference specifically for nonprofits. As a solution architect in the nonprofit sector at AWS, this is our Super Bowl of sorts. It is where all of our customers come together. We have tech sessions where we're introducing new services and technologies and explaining to our nonprofits how they can use them. We have executive meetings where executives can come together and share ideas and help each other keep up to date with what everyone is doing. A really great place to come together and stay on top of tech. So this happens every year. I believe next year will also be in the DC area. This last year it was, and it has been in the past, and it's free for anyone to attend. And then the last one is credits for nonprofits. These are cloud credits that are available via a partner called TechSoup. And this is a way to get free funding to begin building on AWS. I'll go more in detail into credits a little bit later in the presentation. I do see that we already have one question in the chat. Someone said, when is the next cycle for the Imagine Grant? And we have my wonderful colleague, Irene, who's already put in the chat the link to the Imagine Grant program. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and click on that link. You'll see that the next cycle is open in March of 2027. And that might seem far away, but like I said, it's actually a great time now to set yourself up to understand where your tech stack is at now and get in a good place so that by the time March comes around next year, you have a better understanding of what the possibilities are for you with your technology and how you could grow. So I've talked about problems that our customers face, those challenges that they face. I've talked about who AWS is, what AWS Nonprofits is. Now let's talk about, how exactly is it that we are helping our nonprofit customers to actually solve those challenges. So I'm going to talk about them a little bit more in depth, but at a high level, here are some examples of how we might be able to help you solve some of the challenges that you face. So that first one, sites that can't handle traffic spikes. So if the amount of compute power or storage that you have is set up specifically to be able to hold that really large amount of users that come in at your spike time, that means that the rest of the year, you're paying for way more than what you need. So that's where the benefit of scalable hosting and content delivery comes in. So you might be thinking, what does scalable hosting mean? Well, what that means is that you're only paying for what you're using at any point in time. So rather than always running a massive server that is able to work for that large time, and then the rest of the time you're still paying for that massive server, even though you only have a smaller number of users that are coming in, using a cloud provider like AWS allows for you to be paying for the amount of users that are coming in. So for the majority of the year, you might be hosting and only having users that are using this much compute, and then your busy season comes and you're using this much, and we're able to scale it up really quickly with you. And then in this period, you're paying for what you're using. And then after the period, you go back down and you're only using this much. that whole time you're only paying for what you use. And that means that you're able to, have much more cost effectiveness for your organization. Another one might be that your team is buried in manual data work. This is where serverless automation and other types of document AI come in. I'm going to give you a demo in just a little bit on Amazon Quick. I'm curious, maybe pop this in the chat if anyone is already using any sort of AI co-working capabilities, any sort of like AI assistant work in your current day-to-day, because this is a really easy, great way to, I'm seeing someone has already raised their hand. I'm glad to hear that y'all are staying on top of that one. And hopefully, if I give you this insight later on into what that would actually look like on AWS, it might help to destigmatize it and help you see how it could help you on a day-to-day basis. Because being buried in that manual work can be exhausting and overwhelming. And there are services out there that are already made right now and can make your life a lot easier. So I'll give you a demo later on how to do that. Another one might be that there are no real-time insights for funders. A lot of time can historically have been taken to get dashboards up and running, sending them out to potentially some of your executives or your stakeholders or your board members who are wanting to see those dashboards. So there are ways to automate that type of reporting and create really simple to make live dashboards that you can then send out and have that ease of mind that everyone who needs to see the data about your nonprofit is able to see it. And then the last one is those who, hear the words or the phrase AI and think this is confusing. So much is happening really quickly. I don't know where to start or what to do. We have services that are already managed. You don't have to do anything but just sign up and get started. Nothing to build, and you can go ahead and start seeing what it's like to have your life a little bit easier with that type of support. So I can show you that example in the presentation as well. All right, we have a question in the chat from Benjamin who says, our licensing agreement with the IRS does not allow us to engage with making payment to other nonprofits. Is your AWS processing or operating under such agreement with the US government, such as 501c3? So if I'm understanding your question correctly, Benjamin, you're asking if we are also not allowed to make a payment to a nonprofit. I'm not quite sure if I'm totally understanding what the question is, but what I can say is we are compliant with many, with like tons of different compliance standards on AWS. So here, I'm going to put this chat or this link in the chat. And so is our system operating under the tax laws as 501c3? We are not a 501c3. So AWS itself is not a 501c3. Some of our customers are 501c3 organizations, and many of mine who are nonprofit customers are 501c3 organizations, but we ourselves are not 501c3. Okay, awesome. That answered the question. But I did also put a link in there if anyone else is interested in compliance documents. If you do have any compliance standards that you have to stay on top of, we are eligible to be compliant with a wide variety of standards. You do have to kind of set things up in a way that properly adheres to those compliance standards. And that's where an AWS representative can come in and help you make sure you're doing it all properly. Inval says, will the entire Zoom be about AWS? The entire Zoom is about how AWS can help nonprofits. So I'm going to go ahead and get started about, some challenges that customers, my nonprofit customers, might come to me with, and how AWS can help solve them. So in that way, it will a little bit be about AWS and that we're helping solve problems for nonprofits. But if there's any kind of general tech questions that you think would be helpful for me to answer through a nonprofit lens, and I'm happy to answer that type of question for you as well. All right, so here is the first challenge that we help our customers to solve. So customers are often saying, we want to have real-time insights for our stakeholders. It isn't helpful to just, have that quarterly big dashboard that I send out to my execs. They don't want just that. They want to be able to come in on a day-to-day basis and get updated on, XYZ detail that it matters to them. They want to have outcomes that are really data driven attached to every grant report that happens. Or, maybe they want to be taking a look at donor trends and what type of geographic reach there is, and what is the program impact. And they want all of this to be available in one view. We have customers that are saying, I don't want to have to manually export a CSV. I want to be able to like auto update that reporting and have it kind of done for me so that I don't have to, be doing this on a, day to day or hour to hour basis. Benjamin in the chat says, would having an initial evaluation of our site and providing feedback as to how it might be complement to use our services cost us anything? Good question. So interacting with a solutions architect at AWS is a free service. So if you reach out to our contact us portal, and I think some of the team members on my side can send that link out. You are able to get in contact with a solutions architect who can, have a conversation with you and chat with you about, how you might be able to do some optimization. All right, so real-time insights for our stakeholders. How did we approach this with a customer in real life? One of our customers is Easter Seals. If anyone is not familiar with Easter Seals, I can go ahead and put this in the chat so you can give them a look. They're a national nonprofit that provides expert caregiving and support services across disabilities and stages of life. And they help individuals and families across the US live more independently. And so what they do is they have a program for early childhood. That's their Head Start program. They have employment services, they have behavioral health, and they have respite care as well. They're serving 6,000 individuals and families annually. And they had 17 or more core data systems that didn't interface. So when I was mentioning earlier that customers often come to us and have, this database sitting over here and this one over there, and, some spreadsheets over here, and maybe a physical document over here. This is the type of solution that can bring together all of those source systems and then create a dashboard for very simple self-service visualization. What that helps with is being able to slice your data by demographic or program or service or geography, which makes it much more understandable for those who might want that information and actionable as well. So this was the first way that we kind of helped our customers with this type of project. There's a variety of specific services on AWS that were involved. You'll see a couple of them mentioned there on the slide, one of them being AWS Glue. That's a data processing service that kind of helps with the ingest of data from multiple different sources, putting it into a more readable dashboard. The question from someone here says, what kind of source systems was their data living in beforehand? So I can go ahead and put this link in the chat. This blog post goes into a little bit more detail on the Easter Seals use case. And let me see if it has any specific examples of where some of their data was sitting. It says that they were collecting data across several programs. They were manually analyzing it and reporting findings, each with different data systems and reporting mechanisms. So on here, it doesn't have their exact data sources, but what I can tell you is that from my customer examples that I've seen, I have customers that have data sitting in CRMs such as Salesforce, sitting in surveys such as Qualtrics, maybe in like physical papers that are sitting on a desk. Lots of people have like Excel docs on one person's computer, and those are kind of some of the data sources that might come together. That's a great question. And another question in here from Benjamin. Benjamin says, can someone send all the links that are being posted in here? And absolutely, we can. I'm actually not sure how we'll send those out. So I'm going to leave that question to the team in the background to see if we are able to have everyone's emails to send those out. It looks like my colleague Laura is already typing on that. Thank you so much, Laura. All right, so that was the first example of a customer spotlight. The next, sorry for my cough and sniffles on the topic of customer spotlights. One of my customers is National Geographic, and we are currently doing a data migration for them from on-premise to the AWS cloud. And what that meant for me is that last week I was in a refrigerated archival box in their basement as I was kind of working with their physical hard drives. And it gave me a bit of a cold being in that refrigerated, dehumidified room for a week. So please excuse my sniffles and my cough. All right, so the next customer, let me go back quickly to okay, yes, this next topic. And Zach says, yes, we'll send these out afterwards for folks. Perfect. All these links will be sent out to you all. Okay, so the next use case that people have is wanting to free teams from manual work. So, thinking about, data that exists on forms and receipts and applications, all of that is so useful. But if you're not able to grab it and put it into something that is readable, it has no use. Another one is, redirecting staff hours so that they can, be going back to program delivery. Having one single source of truth across data sources so that, one person isn't reading something over here and this other person's document updated and they're reading something different and then they have different understandings of the situation. Having everything centralized so that there's one source of truth across various data sources. And using AI to process and classify and route those documents automatically. So a customer that we did something like this with is the YMCA of Greater New York. I can send a link in the chat about the YMCA of Greater New York as well. The Y says that it is an organization that starts with you and inside your local Y. They help New Yorkers to learn, grow, and thrive. They've got 24 branches and dozens of program sites across the 5 boroughs of New York. But what their mission is starting with the belief that every New Yorker deserves a place to turn to for joy, no matter what. And so the example here with the Y had to do with their swim safety program. So they provide life-saving water safety skills with 20,000 participants annually and 47,000 lessons per year. And historically, every single one of those lessons was tracked on paper. So they had each individual's progress tracked on a paper. But what that meant was that the collective program impact, there's no visibility into it. You could tell kind of one person's story if you had all of their papers, but you couldn't tell the story of, how is the program as a whole made an impact? And what does this mean for the New Yorkers that have interacted with the Y at large? How effective is this program? So what they did is they built the YMCA swim tracker on AWS, and it was funded by the Imagine grant. That's that grant program that I mentioned earlier. With this update, every instructor was tracking the attendance and the achievement of their swimmers via the online portal, and they were able to generate mid-session and end-of-session reports automatically. They aggregated data sets so that they could have program-wide analysis and really make a better story, be able to tell the better story of what the impact was of the program. So I have this link as well for this program. I'll put this in the chat. And if you're interested in the specific services and how this worked, I would definitely recommend that you give this a look. Some of the services that were involved in this were things like a storage service called S3 that was able to host that website and serve it to all the different swim instructors across all of the YMCA New York, as well as a data warehouse called Amazon Aurora that was able to do all the data processing for creating that data so that they could input data about how the swimmers were doing and then read the data back about how the various swimmers were doing. So this is an example of being able to kind of help with the process of that manual work that people would have previously had to do by themselves, now able to be done by technology. All right, I have a question in the chat that says, have you ever done a soup to nuts internal clearance review? For example, a program wants to enter a contract with a vendor, but it implicates HR, IT contracts, and legal. Would your service research how to streamline the intake process to streamline contracting, for instance? Okay, let me read this one more time. An internal clearance review. They want to enter a contract with a vendor, but it implicates multiple different groups. Can you research how to streamline the intake? Well, yeah. Okay, this is a good question, and it kind of leads into the thing that I was about to demo next. So let me go ahead and demo a service that we have called AWS Quick. So I'm going to just exit out of this screen share. And go to my next one. All right, so screen share, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and here we are on Amazon Quick. All right, so here we are on Amazon Quick. I saw some hand raised earlier that some people were using AI services already. Has anyone been familiarized at all with Amazon Quick? If you have not yet, I'm going to pop this link in the chat for you guys to take a look at the Quick website. It's an AI assistant. It helps to answer questions and turn answers into actions. It basically is like your agentic teammate so that you can create insights and automate things and understand how to run processes more efficiently. It helps me so much in my day to day. And I kind of thought that the best way to show you how Quick works and how you might be able to use Quick is by asking Quick to tell me how to give you a demo. So let me say, please create a plan for me for a public demo of your AI capabilities. Quick. Boop. All right, let's see. What is it going to tell me to do? Oh, something went wrong. Looks like my service isn't running right now. Let me go ahead and give this one more try. I wonder if my Wi-Fi isn't right. Hello. My Wi-Fi might be a little bit slow right now running the Zoom and aha. Okay, here we go. Quick says, hey, how's your Wednesday going? What can I help you with? So here's what I want. Can you please create a plan for me for a demo of your AI capabilities? Oh, all right. Well, I had a feeling that Wi-Fi might be a bit of an issue, and so I do have an example already prepared that I checked beforehand to make sure that it was going to work. And here we are. I have one question in the chat that says, is Quick a free resource for nonprofits or is there a subscription fee? So there is a subscription fee for Quick. And if you go into that page that I put in the chat, the Quick website, you'll see what the subscription plans are. There is a free tier to it, but it's going to have a bit of like it's going to have less data storage ability for you. But you'll see that the pricing is per user per month. And you can see what those different tiers are if you go into the website. All right, so here's what I asked Quick. I said, can you please give me a plan for how to demo the benefits of using this app, Quick, to customers on a public-facing webinar? And here's what Quick said. It said what you can do is start with a 30-second pitch. So here's what I'm going to do. Quick is an AI-powered desktop companion, and it connects with your work tools like email, chat file, CRM, project management, and acts as a colleague who never forgets. So one thing that is a great piece of Quick is that it connects to everything that you are already using. So for me, on a day-to-day basis, this is so helpful because it's connecting to my Slack messages, my email on Outlook, all of the notes from my meetings on SharePoint, my meeting summaries on Zoom. Everything that I do is part of Qwik's knowledge base, which means that it is a really strong companion and helper with my tasks. So the next thing that it says is show the activity feed. I had to ask it how to clean that up for a public-facing demo because what the activity feed does is that it flags emails that might need a reply or Slack threads that have moved forward overnight, and gives me advanced context for meetings that I'm going to have on a day-to-day basis. So you'll see that down here, I said, can you clean up my activity feed? So it's sanitized for a public demo. So if we go ahead and go into my activity feed, here I am with a sanitized version. It's cleaned up all the rest of my feed and it's given me this fake activity that is a Q3 product launch timeline. So you can imagine that if I come into my activity feed in the morning, it says, hey, here's one thing that happened. This person shared an update on a product launch timeline with milestones. You can, chat or reply or review that timeline if you'd like. My other activity might include, Slack messages that I've received that are pressing and needed a response, or emails that I, should be thinking about top of mind, that type of thing. All right, so let's go back to it was this one, that page that had the explanation of what I should do. So that was the second thing, was showing the activity feed. Before I move to number 3, let me check on questions from you all. The question one person has asked is, how is Qwik different from platforms like GPT and Claude? Well, I don't know if I can answer this too strongly, just because I think I'm more of an expert on our services than on GPT and Claude specifically. I think Amazon Qwik is built very nicely on the AWS system so that it integrates really nicely with anything that is sitting already within AWS, and it has pre-built extensions into things that you might be using like Salesforce or, like I said, your email or your Slack. There's also different use cases for different things. So for example, you might use like a coding assistant for one task and an AI assistant for like chatting for another task. This one is, specifically for like workflow execution, what I'm showing you. So that's what I would probably say is the biggest benefit of Amazon Qwik. Another person says, we're interested in using an AI chatbot for our website. Do we offer anything like that? And if so, is it compatible with Squarespace? If you're interested in creating an AI chatbot to have like a little chat assistant on a square of your website, we do have services that can definitely help you do that type of thing. Amazon Bedrock, let me send that one in the chat, is an AI service that we have. Here it is. And it allows you to connect to large language models so that you can create something like that, like create a chatbot and then embed it into your website. So the difference between Bedrock, the one I just sent, versus Qwik, which is the one that I'm demonstrating, is that Qwik is a pre-created application. It actually runs on Bedrock under the hood. So Bedrock is powering Amazon Qwik as the application. Amazon Qwik is, able to do all these things like connecting to different connectors and maintaining data and giving you that activity feed and having agents. And all of that is an application that's created on Bedrock. If you'd like to create your own chatbot application to embed it into a website, you can do that with Bedrock itself. So Bruna, that link to Bedrock might be helpful for you. All right, the next thing that Qwik said to demo is that you can ask anything and get answers with context. So this is really helpful for me when I have lots of different customers. I have probably more than 10 customers that I work with. So I've got lots of different stuff happening all the time. I have different meetings. I have different, deliverables and emails that I need to respond to. So being able to ask, hey, what is on my calendar tomorrow and what do I need to prep for these meetings? And then get meeting briefs generated for me before those meetings with, contacts from my previous meetings and from what I've heard and learned from different stakeholders that are aligned is really helpful. Another thing that Quick can do is create deliverables for you in seconds. So when we were talking about having those live dashboard solutions, this is another great thing that Quick can do. I actually even did this and had oh, did it delete it? I think it deleted it. Actually, I think it might have been at the bottom of this one. Yeah, here we go. I said, can you create an example chart for my demo? And you'll see I asked that at 12:43, and what time was the response back to me? At 12:43 as well. So within less than a minute, I'm getting an example chart. This, of course, is fictional metrics because of the public demo. I don't want to show you anything from my actual information on my customers, but with the data that is in the background of your own systems, you can immediately have a chart based on specific date timelines that you're interested in, or revenue numbers, or donors that you're interested in learning about, or programs or funding. You can create these charts really quickly and easily. And then let's ask it, what can I do with these charts? And let's see what Quick says. Looks like my Wi-Fi isn't working right now. I'm sorry about that, everyone. But if it were working right now, you'd see it saying, hey, if you want to pull this, and I can email it out to whatever list of people might be on a specific email list, or I can, send this along to whoever needs it. That allows you to have that kind of updated timeline. I have someone in the chat, Benjamin, saying, you're doing great. Appreciate it, Benjamin. Even with the Wi-Fi issues. Luckily, I had this pre-built anyways. All right. So the next thing that I'll highlight before we go to that final use case is the fact that it has, I'm actually, the last thing I'd want to show you before that is actually memory, because I think this is really cool. The fact that it gets smarter the more you use it. The memory system of Quick is quite strong in that, as you use it more, it has more data about your customers, more data about how you like to work. And it builds up a really strong context about your projects. So you can see here, this one actually is my projects. This is what I do on a day-to-day. So all of my different sources are mapped here on my knowledge graph. You'll see that there are different events and web pages and people that I interact with, products and projects and services. And it will kind of highlight things that come up a lot in my work. So that's me, Fiona McCann. Obviously, a lot of things come back to me because a lot of my projects have my name in it. But the next biggest thing is my account exec. This is my account exec, Sam. He and I are on all of our customers together. And so his name comes up quite strongly on my knowledge graph because he and I are doing a lot of things together. We actually also created a custom data source within Quick that is just based on the notes that we share with each other. So if I want my answers to be filtered in a specific way, I can filter them based on Fiona Sam. Here's my space with Sam. This is a knowledge area, a data area that just consists of my customer notes and his customer notes that we share with each other. And if I apply this to my chat, then when I ask questions here, it's just going to give me answers based on information from both of our notes. All right, I have a question. Do you have any nonprofit clients that are certification or accreditation bodies? They certify individuals who complete their education, exam, or experience requirements. I actually do, yes. And if so, what are the most common use cases with those type of clients? This is a great question. I do work with an organization like this, and I'm actually working on an AI project with this organization. And what we're doing is a question generation project. So it's working to help shorten the amount of time that it takes for those who are the question writers for the exams to write the question. So it uses a knowledge base of all of the textbook information, all the underlying information for the examinations. And then it's coming up with chapter by chapter questions, generating them. There's a human in the loop element so that those people who are traditionally writing the questions get to analyze the ones that are generated and make sure they're up to standards, but it really shortens the amount of time that it takes to come up with new questions. All right, that is the end of this first portion of my demo. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and take you off audio while I blow my nose so you don't have to listen to that. All right, let me go ahead and share and finish up with the second segment. All right, so the next challenge that we help our customers with is this idea of having a high quality and affordable website. So, everyone, of course, wants to have that really high quality website, but it might be hard to have one that is scaling automatically with your campaigns. If you don't have, you might think that it's difficult to do this without having a full-time developer on staff. You might also be worried about the cost implications, thinking that it might be hundreds of dollars per month or more than, is within your budget. We also have customers that, want to be able to deploy these websites really quickly in minutes rather than within like months or days, and also have the websites be covered by credits rather than having to pay out of pocket for them. So we have a customer that we did something like this with, and that is an organization called Parents Helping Parents. Parents Helping Parents is a nonprofit organization based out of San Jose, and they support families that are raising children with special needs. So they have a website that supports these parents. It hosts a member portal. It has event registrations and donation processing and email integrations, but the tech team is entirely volunteer driven. So they were previously paying thousands of dollars a year for a WordPress engine with basic hosting and limited features, and it had just a single staging environment. So what we did with them is we started working with them with the, nonprofit credits via TechSoup, and we were able to migrate their WordPress website onto AWS in just 6 weeks. So now their website has enterprise-grade security, including firewall services and protection from DDoS attacks, and backups for their storage as well. And because it's on the cloud, now their volunteer developers can onboard in less than 1 day because their development environment is not based to a specific computer. So anyone can log into the cloud from their own computer from where they are, and in less than a day, get started, keep working on the website, and make it a little bit better. All right, I'm seeing a question in the chat, but my chat function seems to be malfunctioning a little, and I can't read the second line. I can see, can we use the same process and engagement plan for the grant and then use it to, and then it's blanked out. So let me, oh, here we go. And then use it to obtain AWS services just like YMCA. Can we use the same process and engagement plan for the grant? Yeah, so the process and engagement plan for the Imagine grant, if you apply for that next year, next March 2027 is the next time that it opens up. When you apply for the Imagine grant, it'll go through a multi-round process, but those who win the grant end up with some funding that goes towards specifically AWS credits and some funding that is unrestricted and able to be used in whatever way you see best fit to move the project forward. So yes, it would be the same process in getting that happening. All right, so that is the final customer. And the next question is, would a consultant help us with that? Yeah, so every customer who gets through the first round of the Imagine grant process does get the opportunity to meet with an AWS solutions architect to help them architect their plan for the round 2, because round 2 of the Imagine application is more technical than round 1. Round 1 is kind of a more high-level conversation. Round 2 goes into, what services will you use and how. And in that round of the application process, a solution architect such as myself will help you create that application. All right, so the nonprofit credit program, this offers up to $5,000 in AWS credit. This is a great place to get started because eligible nonprofits get up to $5,000 in promotional credit for any on-demand AWS service. So those things that I was talking about earlier, those compute services and storage, database, those AI/ML services, you're able to use these credits with no upfront investment in infrastructure. And you can request these credits on an annual basis. To apply, you can do it very easily through TechSoup. So you just apply through TechSoup, you get approved, and then you can apply the credits directly to your AWS account. So you don't have to you don't have to wait, they'll be ready to use immediately. And there's broad eligibility. So this is open to 501c 1, 3, 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, and 15 organizations, plus IMLS licensed public libraries. And there's no budget cap. So any size org, no matter who you are, you can apply. And this allows for flexible use cases that, are advancing your mission power. So maybe it's websites, maybe it's a fundraising platform, maybe it's a donor database or analytics or global field operations. Whatever it is that you believe will help move your mission forward, we would really encourage you to use these credits for. And then just for some other places to get started, here are some additional resources for our nonprofit customers. I would definitely recommend with getting started on that nonprofit page. It'll give you an overview of, what is AWS for nonprofits? What do we do? How do we help nonprofits? How might we be able to help you? But there are also some more resources down below that if you're interested in figuring out, is this something that I could do? You can go ahead and take a look at these resources. Sorry, I got distracted because I saw a question that someone said are 501c3 and 501c6 both eligible? And yes. Oh, no, sorry. 501c6 is not. It's open to 501c1, 3, 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, and 15. So hopefully that answers that question. But with these additional resources, these three on the bottom, I would definitely take a look at. So on the bottom left, you'll see a service called AWS Skill Builder. This is a great place to get started, get your hands dirty, and see what it's like to build on AWS. They have courses you can follow along very easily that start from the very beginning of, what to do, step-by-step introductions to different services, what they are, how to use them for your organization. There's also in the middle on the bottom there, technical how-to guides. The AWS Nonprofit Technical Hub is a really great place to take a look at, what are some solutions that other nonprofits have already built out? Have they built something that I could use? We have some published solutions that are easy for you to then deploy in your own environment that other people have previously set up, had run by solutions architects. They are adhering to best practices and they're ready for you to start with. And then the last one down there on the bottom right is ready to use software. So if you don't even want to build these things yourself on AWS, you can kind of think of all these different services on AWS. There's 240 plus services. They're all the Lego blocks. If you don't want to put the different Lego blocks together and build your own house, we have an AWS marketplace for nonprofits that sells those pre-built Lego houses for you. So rather than buying the blocks, you're buying something that's already built. It's ready to use software. It's pre-built for nonprofits specifically. We have lots of partners that are really well versed in the space and know exactly how to help our nonprofit customers. And so taking a look at that ready to use software is a great way to see, what can we get started with right away. I see a question that says, this seems like it works better for larger NFPs. What's the size, either staff count or annual revenue distribution of not-for-profits who are part of this program? We actually have nonprofits of all different sizes that work with our solution architects or that are, on AWS. I don't think that there is a size that, benefits most from AWS. I think that as you build your technology, what you're doing will just change and will grow and will modernize at a faster speed. So even those smaller nonprofits that I've worked with in the past, there are first steps to take for the smallest of the nonprofits that, set you up for that type of growth that helps you to what's the word, to get things rolling more quickly. Exponential, that's the word. So you can have exponential growth and keep up with the speed that tech is moving. All right, we have another question from Hilda that says, will you be sharing this recording? I believe it will be shared. I will leave that question to be answered by someone in the background though, because I am not 100% certain. All right, so with that, that does bring me to the end of the presentation. So thank you all so much for being here, for asking all of these wonderful questions. It's been great to get to interact with you and to have this conversation. We have just a few minutes left, so if anyone has a final question that you'd like to put in the chat, please do go ahead. But if not, it's been wonderful being here with you all. I hope to, learn about what type of growth you've done in the future with AWS, and I hope you have a wonderful week.